What's up guys, welcome to the channel. We got another fun topic for you today, and that is going to be all about panning shots. Now if you don't know what this is, it's essentially using a slower shutter speed to get really cool images like this. In this video, I'm going to give you some really helpful tips to make sure that you can get the best panning shot possible. I'm going to give you 5 tips, so without further ado, let's go ahead and start with tip number 1. One of the most important tips, which is why I put it first, and it's actually often overlooked, is your stance. This will help you tremendously getting a really good stable shot. You're going to want to have your feet planted, and when your subject is moving in front of you, you want to follow them with your torso. So what I mean by that, or you can even kind of like follow them with your shoulders. So what I mean by that is if there's an object going across in front of me, I will go ahead and pan like this while keeping my feet firmly planted in the direction that I kept them in. And the reason why you want to do this is because it'll give you a much more stable shot, and the blur that you get from panning will be way better than if you start moving your phone or your camera around a lot. It'll pick up a lot of that motion blur and you will really see it in your photo. It'll be a little bit more wavy, for example, or it won't be elongated and straight how you definitely want to get your photos. Now tip number 2, which is also extremely important, is your shutter speed. You're going to want to drop this down and make it slow so that you can capture the motion blur while you are panning. Now it's going to really depend on the subject that you are shooting and how quickly they are moving, which will depend on the shutter speed you are actually shooting at. Typically, I like to be at around 1/15 of a second if it dealing with slower moving objects like a jogger or a cyclist or something like that. And if you are shooting something a little bit quicker, I like to be at double that, about 1/30th of a second. And this is really good for maybe cars on the street and things like that. And then you go ahead and double that once more. And now we're at about 1/60th of a second. This works really well with really fast moving objects. Say, for example, you're at a car race or motorcycle race or something like that that deals with much quicker motion. I generally like to stay around a 1/60th of a second, see how that turns out, and if you like it, awesome. If you feel that you are needing a little bit more blur, then you can always drop that shutter speed down just a little bit till you get the result that you are looking for. However, just so you guys have a little bit of a baseline to get you started, those are typically the shutter speeds that I shoot at when shooting things along those speeds. Now something else that I want to mention is nowadays a lot of cameras and lenses have some sort of stabilizer in them, whether it be digital or optical, and it helps you stabilize your image as you shoot it or even just in real time. I would highly recommend you actually turn this off when trying to shoot panning shots. If not, you may get some really weird movement in your photos simply because you're moving the camera fairly quickly, and your optical or image stabilizer is going to try and counteract that. And basically you're kind of fighting two different things by moving your camera really quickly, and then your stabilizer will try and catch up with that, and sometimes it will just not give you a great result at all. So that's something I highly recommend you turn off. It's something that I turn off, especially when shooting anything really fast, because like I said, they start to fight each other and the image just does not look that great. And let's go ahead and talk about another really important topic, and that is going to be focus. So you obviously have your manual focus and your autofocus, and depending on your camera will depend on how quick and accurate your focus or your autofocus will be for the speed of the subject you are shooting. This is going to really heavily rely on your camera and your lens, so it's kind of hard for me to give you just kind of like a baseline that you should be shooting at. However, I personally love shooting with autofocus any chance I get, and this is no exception simply because it is a lot easier to be shooting with something like autofocus in a situation like this since your subject is moving fairly quickly. Now with that said, there are a couple of things to keep in mind while shooting this type of thing in autofocus. One of them being you're going to want to make sure that your object is not coming towards you, because if it is, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for you to nail that focus. Your lens is going to have a little bit longer lag to nail that focus than if it were basically keeping the same distance from your lens going across the frame this way as opposed to in the frame like that. I hope that makes sense, but it is something to keep in mind when you are shooting these types of photos. Now, if you are shooting a subject that may be coming closer to the lens at a faster rate, I would recommend possibly using your manual focus, because it'll be a little bit easier, especially if they're coming towards the lens at a constant speed. It'll be a lot easier for you to just turn your focus and keep that focus on them with that constant speed versus having autofocus. Your lens could continue to hunt back and forth and really would only allow you to grab a couple of shots instead of actually using manual focus. And the last tip is practice. This is one of those things that you will have to go out and shoot quite a lot of images to really nail down what works for you and your camera. Like I said, each camera is completely different, so it is super important that you really go out and use your camera and shoot as many situations like this as possible for you to really learn what your camera is capable of. And it will also help you understand the type of images that you like to go for. Like I said earlier in the video, as a baseline, I really like to shoot maybe around 1/15 of a second, right? So for you, you may actually love the image result that you get at shooting 1/60th of a second on even those slower moving objects. But you won't know that unless you go out and shoot. So I highly recommend going out and practicing and shooting any chance you guys get. That's really going to help you take everything up a notch and really elevate the quality of your work. And with that said, guys, that is going to wrap up this tutorial video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel continue to grow. And if you're not already subscribed, consider doing so and hit that bell notification. We are coming out with fresh new content for you guys every single week. Now, with that said, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.